Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Eli, and I'm here to talk about trouble sleeping. Now, to be honest, a lot of people struggle to sleep. However, there are times when people are struggling to a very significant degree and it's impacting their daily functioning. And so we're gonna talk about all the different types of insomnia and then the things that a psychiatrist, and more importantly you, can do to help treat and solve your trouble sleeping. So insomnia is a word that is used to describe trouble sleeping. And it is an actual disorder that we can diagnose. Now, what's important about insomnia is that's a very big, broad term, and there's actually a couple different ways to think about it. First is it primary insomnia, which just means is it trouble sleeping that doesn't have an underlying cause for a medical reason? And secondary insomnia is just a way to say there's an actual biological medical cause that's leading to the trouble sleeping. We're gonna focus mostly on primary insomnia. What's really important for me is to understand what part of sleep a person is struggling with. Is it trouble falling asleep? Is it trouble staying asleep, so you're waking up a lot throughout the night and having trouble getting back to sleep? Or is it that you're waking up early in the morning and despite being tired and wanting to sleep, you just can't get back to sleep? Or is it a mix of multiple of these, which is also possible? The reason why it matters is that depending on what phase of sleep you struggle most with can begin to help me understand what mental health conditions might be causing the difficulty with sleep. For example, depression is very associated with waking up early, wanting to go back to bed, and not being able to get back to bed. Anxiety, for example, is related mostly to trouble falling asleep because people are often worrying and getting really anxious and can't settle, as well as staying asleep because the anxiety keeps them very close to being awake. And then when they do awake, which is actually a normal part of sleep, their anxiety kicks in and adrenaline, and then they can't get back to sleep. The next important thing for me to understand is the severity of insomnia. And there's two ways to think about that. One is the duration. So how long has this problem been going on? If it's a couple days or a week or two, not as concerning as someone who's been struggling with this for months to even years. That is a severe case. Also, it's to think about how disruptive is this person's difficulty with sleep. Is it causing them to fall asleep during the day at work? Is it causing them to not be able to stay awake to drive, for example? So we really want to understand how severe it is in terms of how impairing, and two, just how long it's been going on. When you zoom out and think about it, all humans are supposed to be sleeping about 25 to 30% of their life. And if that 25 to 30% of their life is disrupted, it's going to have huge ripple effects on the rest of their life. And what we know is that while depression and anxiety can lead to difficulty with sleep, difficulty sleeping over time can worsen or even lead to, in and of itself, depression and anxiety. So it's incredibly important to understand just how major of a problem it is so that we know how to prioritize treating it. I want to really stress how important it is for you to bring up your difficulty sleeping, both with your therapist as well as your psychiatrist. And what often we do very first line for anybody who's struggling with sleep is something called cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. And it works about 90% of the time. And the major focus of that therapy is on your behavior around sleep, which we call sleep hygiene. The first is light. And so good sleep hygiene involves maximizing your natural daylight during the day, so your body clock knows when it's daytime versus nighttime. And two, minimizing what we call blue light, so light from screens like computers, TVs, that trick your body clock into thinking it's daylight. So if you're watching TV in bed and it's late at night, your body clock will think, wait, it's time to wake up. So it's important to maximize natural light during the day and minimize blue light at night. Second, you want to think a lot about what you do in your bed, and beds are really just for sleep and nothing else. So you want to minimize eating in your bed, working in your bed, doing games in your bed. You really want to keep that just for sleep, so your body and mind know my bed equals sleep. Third, you want to ensure that where your bedroom is and where you're sleeping is cool, quiet, and dark. So you want to really optimize it for sleep. And then lastly, you want to think about consistency. So going to bed around the same time every night and waking up around the same time every morning. That all together, there's other factors, but those are the big ones to really think about with sleep hygiene. Now, if CBT for insomnia does not work or is not enough because your difficulty sleeping is very severe, then we would think about medication. And when we think about medication, it's important to know that medication rarely should be a super long-term solution. You really want to try and figure out all the other behavioral interventions and habits that promote sleep. But again, because trouble sleeping can be so disruptive and so draining on a person, it is okay to use medication in certain situations. Before we get into prescription medications, there's a medication that many of you probably know about called melatonin. And it is a medication that you can pick up at pretty much any pharmacy. And it essentially is the brain chemical that your body naturally produces to help promote sleep and regulate that body clock we've talked about, that sleep hygiene is so helpful for optimizing. So melatonin can be a very good starting point for you on your own, even without a doctor, and see if that's helpful for you and your sleep. Now, the types of medications we use fall into a few different categories. The first category are medicines called antihistamines. So think Benadryl. Now, this family of medicine are really not considered super heavy duty, and that's why they are the first round of medications. They're not habit forming, they're not addictive. The next type of medication to talk about are medications that originally were actually blood pressure medications. And examples of these are prazosin and clonidine. Now, what is really unique about the medication prazosin is that it was found to be helpful for nightmares specifically. So if people are having nightmares related to their PTSD and that's what's causing a lot of their trouble sleeping, this is a great first place to start as it can really help block nightmares. The last category of medications that I want to talk about that can help promote sleep are medications we call Z drugs. These are medications like Ambien, Lunesta, or Sonata, and these are actually approved for use of trouble sleeping. They're very helpful for short-term issues with sleep, but they are not good for long-term. So think if you're having trouble sleeping for a couple nights and nothing else is working, then this is an okay option to use here and there, maybe every couple weeks, every couple months. If you use them every single day, they are actually habit forming and can get you very dependent on them. So these are medications, again, you wanna think short term, but can really help with sleeping, whether it's trouble falling asleep or staying asleep. I describe these medicines as anti-adrenaline, so they can really help calm the nervous system down and promote sleep in that way. So in summary, if you're thinking about medication for your insomnia, really you want to start with that first category of Benadryl-like medications. If those don't work, then I would recommend going to these blood pressure family of medications. And if that doesn't work, then in an emergency, more severe short-term situation, you could use these Z drugs like Ambien. But again, I want to stress that is not the long-term solution. It's really just a more rare as needed basis for that medication. Many people come to me where their initial presenting concerns are their severe depression, their severe anxiety, their PTSD, and something that I always try to identify in that first appointment early on in treatment is how is their sleep, because sleep is that important. When you think about it, if you're showing up to your therapy appointments exhausted and tired because your sleep is so disrupted, it's gonna be a lot harder to not only pay attention and fully engage in therapy, but for all of the things you're learning in therapy to really consolidate and be integrated into your daily life. So I actually think often as sleep is a really good starting point that we want to optimize so that the rest of your treatment can get better. And then once your therapy is able to sink in more and take full effect, then what's causing the trouble sleeping will get better, whether it's depression, anxiety, or PTSD. And as those factors get better, then you'll likely be able to come off of the medication if you were started on medication for trouble sleeping. So they're very interwoven, and sleep is a really important starting point for your treatment. Many people watching this will be able to easily identify, am I having trouble sleeping, and just how difficult sleeping is for me. What might be less clear is what that reflects. does that actually mean that my depression, anxiety, or PTSD is a lot worse than I thought? Or is my difficulty sleeping actually one of the main barriers in me healing from that depression, anxiety, and PTSD? For those people, it's really important to consider more intense treatment or more variation in their treatment, like psychiatry, group therapy, or different forms of therapy. And if you're interested in learning more to see how we may be able to help and if we're a good fit, you can look at the link in our bio to learn more and find a time to chat with us.